All right, so I'm going to show you about this Samsung refrigerator we've had. We moved it to the garage and we bought a new one on the inside. So every time we go to open this piece called a mullion stays open. So in order to close it, it hits this door. These are French doors. So we'd have to close this down and push it in there, right? And when we opened it, it never stayed flat. It always opened up again. So it was kind of a pain in the neck. So I looked at it and I decided to take this off with 2 screws on the hinge. And when you take these 2 screws out, you want to lift this hinge and the bottom hinge up. There's a little cleat that they slide into, so you want to pull this whole bar, this mullion bar, up. And then what that does is that exposes the wiring harness inside behind this plate. You want to disconnect that wiring harness. That tells the refrigerator if the door is open or not. It also works with the light. So you disconnect that wiring harness, and now you have this piece flat to put on your workbench or your table or whatever. Now you're going to need a flat-bladed screwdriver, and you're going to need to pull apart 8 pins, not pins, little, what are they? I guess little slots. So you're going to stick your screwdriver in there, get a butter knife. I use plastic razor blades as, to keep it open, because as soon as you push your thing in there and you crack it open, it shuts again. So you got to do all 8 of them down the line here. You can't miss them. You need a thin-bladed flathead. And then what that does is that releases one side. That releases this side. So now you have to force it this way to get it to release from under here, where my finger is. Once that happens, now you have 2 pieces, and you have it exposed inside. You have a small piece of styrofoam here. You have a large piece of styrofoam, another large piece of styrofoam, and a small piece of styrofoam. So if you take that styrofoam off, you'll have a spring in here. And underneath of this plastic, one end of the spring goes to the hinge clip, and the other end of the spring goes to the mullion. And so my spring, some of them break. The plastic where the spring goes into, sometimes that breaks. My spring happened to be bent. So all I did was just took a needle nose plier, 2 of them, and I just kind of made that hook so it was more of a 90 degree, because it was kind of like that, so it would just pop out. So I made it a little less than 90 degrees so it stays in there. And what that does is that puts tension and makes this spring makes this hinge springable. So that was problem number 1. The second problem was that when we put this closed, outside of me having to continuously manually close it to get it to shut, it never rode in this groove, which is what opens it and closes it, because these are French doors. So you need this protected here so the cool air doesn't come out. So if you notice, the height is now up in that groove. Before, it was lower than the groove, so it didn't really work. Now, this does have a spring in here that if you slam it shut, that will trip and connect. So that kind of protects it from breaking. So my door was too low. In order to fix that, you have to get some shims, or you can make them if you really want, but it's best to just buy them. You can get them on Amazon. They're like $4 a bag, prime shipping. You get them in the next day or so. And what you do is you see across the top which one is higher. Obviously this one's going to be higher than this one. So you put the thickness of the shim. There's 4 different ones in there, different thickness shims. They're little plastic C-clips, right? So you put it until it matches, right? So if you go like that, it should be one continuous. It shouldn't be down like that, right? So you put that shim there, or the C-clip, and it's level. Now what that does is that brings your door up. When you put that clip, it's best to get some needle nose pliers. When you put that clip on that pin, right? So I just slid the door up, and there's a black clip under there. Now, there's also a washer. If you can get something in there like a butter knife or some thin piece of metal to slide that washer up, these shims are supposed to go between the washer and the hinge plate, this silver colored plate. I couldn't do that. I just said, screw it, it's a garage refrigerator, I don't really care. So I just snapped it right on top of the post. Now what that did is that raised the garage door, or the refrigerator door up. So now it's flush. Now not only did I fix the height and get this to open and close, but I got it to seal shut. So doesn't matter which one you open, it will still be able to close. So that's that. Enjoy.